This is gonna be the first live, and it's crazy. It says I need to sign into to allow myself to text. Okay, but this is the first WorldBreaker stream. Fenrir. Oh, backstory. Sorry, I got to get to it. Fenrir story. The night was dead. Fucked up already, right? The night was thick, devoid of moonlight, an uncanny chill. And an uncanny chill in the air, an unusual silence veiled the unusually bliss city. From the midst of this stillness, a figure emerged. His form was striking, a monstrous mix of beast and nightmare, a wolf-like creature. His fur, dark as the endless void above, shimmering under the scarce city light. His elongated bear-like claws clicked against the cold concrete as his eyes, and his eyes, they were the most mesmerizing, glowing with an eerie red light, like coals onto bricks of ignition. Sorry. What am I? Like, his blinks were prolonged, as if closure was an attempt to shut out the confusion and fear that gripped him. Each blink was a battle between the need to see and the overwhelming sensory overload. During these intervals of darkness, his inner voice spoke, a primitive and furious monologue in raw emotion. Like, so during this part of the scene, it is hard for me to pretty much like, at this scene it's pretty much a dark and eerie place. He's showing up in pretty much a dark alley. He has pretty much the darkness of the city at this time to use his advantage. His cloak is that pitch black color. His eyes are the only thing that are glowing red, and they trail like embers, the same way that you would see an ember trail if you waved it in front of you. You could see his eyes trail with that red. That pondering, why am I here? His anger echoed. His anger echoed in every word. Confusion trembled in his pitch, and fear manifested in his repetition. Yet above all, it was the hunger that resided supreme. The voice spoke an insatiable need, a starvation that seemed to gnaw from within, consuming his very essence. He's starting to feel something different. Like, every feeling for him at this stage is pretty much new, and he has no prior knowledge of anything that happened before.
This is when the power flow just starts to actually activate.
Yeah, these are when these powers are just now starting to activate. Like, these are when these powers are just now starting to activate. Smell, blood, warm, life. Like, even his speech at this point is still very, very minuscule. This is what I was talking to you about before with Genie's laws of power mutation. Yeah, like, you can see he has like that 3-year-old type, like, yeah, and for him to have no recollection of how to speak, yeah, it's still jumping in there. His eyes opened and the world returned, as with it, his most potent scent. The scent of blood filled his nostrils, the metallic tang so potent it was nearly taste. The odor wafted from the unsuspecting citizens, a tantalizing smell to a predator on the prowl. The voice in his head roared in response, louder and angrier. It was the scent of life, of prey. His heartbeat quickened. The sound of thundering in his ears like drums heralded the commencement of the hunt. Like, so pretty much by this I'm saying, like, Fenrir, he is a giant wolf-like creature, thus the name Fenrir. And his sense of smell is so strong that just like most creatures would be able to smell water from a distance, he could smell the blood within your body. Yeah.
Is there there a max distance on that?
Yeah, there is a max distance on that, and there is also like barriers and stuff. If there are barriers in between, then you might not be able to smell that. The max distance on that, I would say, is honestly it's close. It's more close range than you think. So more like a mile at the very potent. Unless you have an open cut, a mile is the most you can smell blood within you.
Okay.
If you're cut, then that's something different.
Open cuts.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. All right. So his thought process hits again. Food. Close. Close. Pray. The voice grew, frenzied, filled with the insatiable desire for satisfaction. His nostrils flared. The scent was close, so close he could almost taste it. His claws fixed with anticipation. Opened, opening his eyes, he found himself face to face with a screaming man. Deep lacerations were all over his body. The pavement was painted red with the pavement was painted red. His feet were soaked as he stood over him, soaked in the blood, of course. The noises of the surrounding area came in, the screams, the panic of civilians as they ran, scrambling for the nearest safety shelter. It sent the scent of blood, most importantly. Actually increase that. Kind of lost myself trying to increase that. Sorry, hold on. Yeah. No, I enlarged what I was reading, so it like threw off how the spacing of everything is. A newfound clarity, right?
No, as open, they were immediately surrounded by the door. The screams muffled by the cops.
But you know what? I'm gonna literally have to minimize my screen to go back to where I was. That shit is crazy. All right. As his eyes open, which is what the fuck? I can see it there, but.
Yeah, that's what you said.
All right, fuck it. I see it now. It just doesn't break up the same. It's pretty much as his eyes opened, they were immediately fixated upon the man's throat. His screams were muffled by the coughs of blood. The screams were muffled by the coughs of blood. Without hesitation, his mouth opened, thrown into the throat of his once screaming man. Screams weakened his screams weakened and his mouth filled with blood. Fenrir's eyes ran redder, or darker red. The bones held no resistance while he chewed and lapped up the blood. The feelings of confusion and fear left his body. He stands without shaking, direct and absolute. As this time, there was no need for knowledge of his past. The direction of his future is ahead. So pretty much, after tasting blood for the first time, his intelligence is vastly increased, pretty much. Yeah, some real neuron activity is going on there. Fenrir, in this part, this is just alluding to what you will find out later is Fenrir's intelligence grows every time he consumes blood to the point where it's almost like a supercomputer in his brain. So his intelligence can get vastly higher than even the average human at this time.
Is it still based off of, for example,
Yes.
the leader?
Yes.
Once it's like a leader, for example, then a new chromosome unlocks that shit. Okay, alright.
Yeah, exactly that. So, yeah, alright. Okay. A newfound clarity causes let me just highlight my thing based off of this. A newfound clarity courses through Fenrir as he stood over the lifeless body of the once screaming man, the taste of blood still lingering in his mouth, a sharp reminder of the raw primal act that has quenched his hunger. His glowing red eyes reflecting the sharper understanding, a directness that hasn't been there before. Pretty much his understanding is at a completely different level. His want for more, pretty much more. He needs more. The voice within rumbled, the desire for blood, now an insatiable thirst that has pulsed within every heartbeat. Like he literally feels that's the only feeling really he's starting to have that frenzy within his own head. Um, around him the world was around him the world was chaos. Civilians scattered like frightened animals, their faces pale and the eyes were widened with terror. They screamed and pushed and scrambled into a frenzied rush towards the nearest shelters. Their fear was palpable, a thick cloud that was only adding to the intoxication, alluring to their blood. The scent was insatiable, a mixture of terror and life, so strong that he could almost taste it. His nostrils flared, taking in the smell that drew him towards his next hunt. He prowled forward, the scent leading him towards a cluster of fear-soaked individuals hidden in the nearest shelter, a rich musk of terror as a beacon, guiding him towards that chaos. Like that's me alluding to this part where remember where I told you before that Citizen Z, like they know he's there. The shelter is supposed to be sealed. These are airtight shelters. For him to know they're there, that means they did not shield the shelter. You see what I'm saying? The government never had the hero. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So pretty much, the sound of insatiable, yet a mix of turmoil, right? Alright, I was just making sure I was at the right point. Alright, yeah. Yet a mix of turmoil, the potent scent of fear, another smell reached Fenrir's heightened senses. It was different, stronger, not laced with fear, but rather a potent cocktail of determination and power. He talks to himself again. Of course, this is his mind. Strong, different. Fenrir's inner voices questioned the scent. Pretty much, the scent pretty much piqued his curiosity. This entity was, oh yeah, this entity was not like the rest. The new challenge was his primal instinct, initiating a spark of anticipation. Because at this point, I'm trying to pretty much say that his instinct is letting him know that, unlike hunting a rabbit, it's almost like you're hunting big game. This is a totally different fight.
Big game hunt back.
Yeah. Big game will fight back. Like, you see what I'm saying? So he could smell that. Leaping behind a car just moments before hundreds of projectiles flood the street in his direction. In only seconds, cars and buildings were riddled with holes. Returning fire by throwing chunks of asphalt in cars in cars before disappearing into the nearest building. They panic, fear me. His eyes are focused. He can feel their fear, smell their blood. Little does he know, his location is being tracked. Powers are common in this world, and the understanding of the unknown is apparent. Most buildings are reinforced, and cameras are everywhere. Crimes are not taken guilty. Public servants hurt by the ordeal are recovered during this downtime and carried to the on-site armored vehicles. And the downtimes were used wisely as they called for backup. Troops began to spread out, holding down the perimeter and monitoring strongholds. Knight's fight with the Dread Dragon led to a complete change in the era of combating the New Age villain. Safety structures have been made and are mandatory within every 5 square miles, as well as the majority of gathering spaces. Gathering spots. Everything is recorded. Where there are cameras, there are people watching. Troops are deployed to the area. Actions and damage are assessed and relayed real time. Appropriate heroes and supporters are deployed, and necessary cleanup and actions took place. Those are pretty much the
rules.
Yeah, that's the list of how things goes. First off, everything is on camera. People are watching. If troops are deployed, that means they saw you do something. Once troops are deployed, the actions and your damage are assessed while they are there. They're figuring out what you are capable of while people are there. While that happens, something will happen. A hero will be deployed. If a hero will be deployed, no matter what the outcomes, because of what Knight has shown us, the necessary cleanup will always take place. Because Knight has shown us that no matter what, he will come out victorious. So, you see what I'm saying? um, Fenrir is being tracked, and the hero Stone Midas is 2 minutes away from the target. Spray reinforcement has been deployed and marker set. One of the troopers relay over comms, but before Fenrir leaps from the building. Pretty much, like I said, Stone Midas is on his way, and before he even shows up, they're already spraying foam reinforcement. You see how it makes sense how he was able to do these. Things have to be set up in this world. A lot of heroes cannot just spontaneously just get into these fights and be able to be that capable. Yeah, you have to assessment. You have to back up. You have to plan. You have to and that's why being with the government is so beneficial for heroes. Yeah, Fenrir is being tracked. One of the troopers relay over comms before Fenrir leaps from the building. With a powerful leap, Fenrir hurls himself from the building, his monstrous form silhouetted against the chaos below. Before he descends, he grabs chunks of the building's frame, hurtling them with deadly precision towards the ones who dared to shoot at him and the armed vehicles housing those who were injured. The impact were pretty much immense and catastrophic. They're immediate. Compared to how he was falling, when he grabbed those rocks, they hit. It's it's pretty much they pretty much hit. Therefore, those unfortunate enough to be in the path of debris didn't have a time to scream. Their bodies were instantly obliterated, leaving nothing more than a ghastly stain on the road and chilling testament to Fenrir's fear. From below, the sharp projectile sounds of gunfire echoed above, a futile attempt to subdue the beast that was Fenrir. Bullets sprayed him, sparking off of his thick hide but causing no visible harm. The public servants, men and women who dedicated to restoring order, were left helpless as their weapons proved they were inadequate against the monstrous threat. As soon as Fenrir's claws touched the ground, he was in motion again. With the agility that outcasted his hulking form, he bounded from one spot to another, his elongated claws slashing body armor and New Age riot shields with endless fury. Cars were lifted and hurled as easily as pebbles, and their crumbled forms turned into deadly projectiles against anyone who dared to stand in Fenrir's way. The chaos drove panic, allowing Fenrir to feed and lap up the blood on the pavement. This is before he gets just to that, 10-gallon mark. That way. Yeah, right before he gets to that 10-gallon mark. The chaos was a symphony for Fenrir's ears. The screams, the crunch of metal, the rush of the fleeing citizens filled the air, but amongst the dissonance, a harmony of flavors met his tongue. The metallic tang of lust, the raw essence of the flesh he consumed with abundance. The blood dripped from his jaws as he fed.